What's something you did as a kid or teenager that still embarrasses you to this day? Story 1. When I was 7, just after my sister was born, I remember being in a Jack-in-the-Box with my mother, grandmother, little brother, and the baby. I wanted attention, and I thought I'd figured out a trick to get my mother to pick me up and coddle me. I'll tell her I'm gassy. Every time the baby is gassy, she picks her up and coddles her. I started saying real loud, "Mom, I'm gassy. I'm really gassy." My grandmother and my mother started shushing me and it got louder. "Why? I'm really gassy." I started to put the whine on. "Mom, I'm gassy." Their shushes got really intense and I started to wonder what it was that I was saying that was embarrassing them. When the baby's gassy, it's adorable. Why isn't it adorable for me to be gassy? I'm adorable too. Then I looked behind me and saw a whole table of young adults, probably in their very early 20s, laughing their off at me. I had no idea why they were laughing, but I knew they were laughing at me. As I walked by, one of them told me to fart. I totally didn't get it and ran to my mother. I'm not sure when it hit me what I had done, whether it was days later or years later, but when it did, oh my god, you can't imagine. But I still sometimes lie in bed at night and cringe thinking about it. That's hilarious. There's a lot of things that aren't adorable when an old person does it, like smiling without teeth. It's cute when a baby does it, but horrifying if a grown man does it. Story 2. Hey, I've got one for this. The other day, someone asked me what's the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me as a child was. This is what I came up with. It's not a bad memory, but it's definitely the thing that still gives me the strong burning in my cheeks and neck kind of feeling. When I was maybe 9 or 10, I was at the supermarket with my older brother, who was 17 or 18 at the time. Our mom liked to shop late in the evenings to avoid the rush, and she'd be there for 3 or 4 hours, so we'd get bored and start messing around. My brother was an adult, and I was a kid. So of course, we did stupid stuff like wear bicycle helmets and fight with toy lightsabers, or play hide and seek in the clothes rack. So one time we were rearranging the plastic flowers to spell dirty words, and a couple of girls walked by us. They were probably only a year or 2 older than me, but when you're a kid, everyone older than you looks like an adult. I said to my brother, "Hey, that girl's pretty." I didn't mean it. I wasn't really old enough to be attracted to girls. It was just something I'd heard my brother say, so obviously I had to repeat it. Just kind of absent-mindedly, he responded, "Yeah, you should tell her that." A heartbeat passed, and then you could almost see the light bulb appear over his head. He was a big brother, after all, so he fixed me up with one of those nasty plastic flowers and pushed me towards the girl, who was now browsing CDs. I distinctly remember thinking of Michigan J. Frog, although I didn't know that name at the time, being pushed onto the stage and climbing up. I was a shy kid and it was all too easy to picture myself on that stage in front of that girl, towering over me in all of her 5th grade-ish wonder and becoming an ordinary frog. But my brother was watching, so I couldn't back down now. I tapped the girl on the shoulder and held the flower, a blue rose with a plastic stem and fabric petals, out to her. "You're pretty," managed, through quivering lips. She smiled and graciously took the flower, and relief hit me like a cool wind. Although, of course, it was scentless, she raised it to her face and smelled it, and I'll never forget it. As she inhaled, color spread across her cheeks as if the rose were its source. I think that was the first time I was ever attracted to a girl. And to this day, I think it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I could feel the blood rushing to my face as I realized I was staring, and turned and ran and hid behind my brother. It isn't the hiding that still makes me feel embarrassed. It's the way she blushed and how small I felt, and how big that feeling was, or something. I didn't know exactly why, but I still blush whenever I think about it. Story 3. When I was a freshman, I had a crush on a guy I had never spoken to. He was the valedictorian of the senior class, and I was peripherally involved in some of the same academic-themed extracurriculars as he was. And I basically decided that he was so smart and dreamy, and unattainable enough that I didn't have to do anything so intimidating as interact with him for real, and spent a lot of time talking to my friends about it. I'm not sure how it got started, but we ended up with this running inside joke about him being in a geek boy band with a hot salutatorian and a couple of the other smart kids from the senior class. We wrote fake songs, parodies of real boy band songs with the lyrics changed to be about math, and named the band. I was really into my Angel Fire website at that time, so I made a little fake fan site for our fake band and used his real name on it several times. The joke ran its course after a few weeks, and I promptly forgot about it, and forgot all about my crush on this guy after he graduated. Fast forward to about 4 years later, when Googling yourself was becoming a thing, and I got an email at the address of my forgotten Angel Fire site from the former valedictorian's fiancé and a few of his friends. I've stumbled across this site and find it hilarious. I deleted everything in a panic, but I still get a little red when I think about how my teenage fangirling of some guy who had no idea who I was ended up being seen by him and all of his friends. I used my first name on the website as well, which has an unusual spelling and it was a fairly small school, so there's actually a good chance he was able to look in an old yearbook and see exactly who I was.
"Hey there, If you haven't heard already, a few friends and I recently launched Rufus Rugs, your go-to destination for premium custom hand-tufted rugs. Looking to add a touch of your favorite anime like Naruto to your space? We've got you covered. Or perhaps you're a die-hard Pokemon guy and want bus toys showcased for everyone to admire. No matter your style, we can bring your vision to life. Click the first link in the description to explore more.
Story 4. When I was in high school, my friends and I used to make videos. We eventually formed an amateur video club called Skit Studio. We would meet once a month at a friend's house and we would come up with ideas and make amateur movies. The worst movie we made was for my literature class. We were told to make a Hamlet video. Earlier in the year, we had learned about fertility regions and origin stories, and we were told if we incorporated themes from past units, we could get extra credit. So we made a 14-minute epic on Hamlet with phallic and symbols galore and hidden innuendos at every turn. Nothing was spared. Even me drawing my sword was a fertility symbol. Holy hell, did we go completely freaking nuts. Ophelia was apparently Britney Spears living in a trailer who was personally told by Coco Pelli to Hamlet at every walking moment. We lasted 5 minutes into the initial screening before the teacher cut us off, the final straw being after a student was so offended that she walked out of the room. Rumors spread abound, which escalated to the idea that we had somehow created a Hamlet-themed adult movie. We still got an A. The final showdown in the film was a Mortal Kombat-themed ninja battle with accurately made video and HUD graphics. There were no female actors in the entire play, in keeping with Shakespearean tradition. Sadly, the film has since been lost to me and my friends, or I would have put it on YouTube. That Friday, we got drunk and watched the entire thing at my house. Too much fanfare and quoting. I am ashamed of that video. I'm quite glad it has been lost to time. Story 5. In high school, I had a bit of a sweating problem. My armpits were soaked all the time and my hands were clammy regardless of the temperature. I was just back from a small trip in Germany, where I bought this super fly button-up shirt and I wanted to sport it. It was made of a very thin material and was also a very light turquoise color that I realized early on would definitely show the sweat. So being the genius I was back then, I stuffed my pits with tons of toilet paper and headed off to school. It should keep me dry for at least half the day, right? I could then make a pit stop in the bathroom and change it out. Well, that day was also a day I had to give a speech in front of my Spanish class. Speeches have always gotten me nervous, and now I had to attempt one in another language. I wasn't the best student in the world and sucked at Spanish, so I got up there, rattled off my memorized speech, they applauded and I went back to my seat. No big deal, right? It was then I saw that a huge wad of soaked toilet paper must have fallen out and was right there in front of the class sitting on the floor. My stomach dropped, and I could have just died right then. I think the rest of the class was equally as embarrassed for me because everyone acted like it wasn't right there in the middle of the room, and the rest of the speakers had to walk around it. They must have seen it tumble out. Luckily for me, it never came up or was mentioned ever after that. When it was also first period. I had soaked that TP in no time at all. Probably used one-ply tissue. Also, when I read Pit Stop, the only thing running in my head was Luigi from Cars. Story 6. Well, I'm still a teen, but I do remember this one moment when I was about 7. My parents threw me a birthday party, and I didn't have many friends, so my older sister asked a bunch of her friends to bring their younger siblings. It was going well, and for some reason, all of us kids were just jumping and dancing together in the yard, just partying and stuff. I was trying to impress this one cute girl with my moves, but she wasn't having it. So I stopped my dancing and thought it would be a good idea if I flashed her my wiener. The look of sheer confusion in her face made me panic, so I tried to play it off by saying, your turn. But it didn't work and she continued dancing toward another direction. And I never saw her again. Or so I thought. About 2 weeks ago, a good friend of mine reminded me of this flashing incident and asked if I remembered. Then it dawned on me that she was the little girl I showed my dick to. It all made sense, but I couldn't let her know that I still remembered, so I denied it. Sorry, Ashley, for showing you my 7-year-old wiener. This got me laughing hard. I loved how this dude came up with, your turn, to play it off. Genius move. Another genius move is to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Back to the video. Story 7. I'm actually not that embarrassed about it anymore, because it wasn't really my fault. It was about 20 years ago. But it still makes me cringe when I occasionally think back of the unbelievable amount of shame I had to bear. It also makes me hate the human race. Anyway, this is a high school in France, and I'm 15. New school, new class, I'm the new kid. Back in my suburban school, I was always the weird kid that nobody really liked, and that some occasionally bullied. I hated my childhood for the most part. My dad died not so long before, which prompted my mom to move back to Paris to find a job. So here I am, now living in Parisian school housing with my mom. At the new school, I decided I would start over and try not to be the weird one. Awkwardly, I was doing rather okay. I had more friends than I had in my previous school in the suburbs. One popular guy liked me because he thought I was funny, so we were hanging out all the time. I wasn't really doing anything different or being different. I just think Parisian kids were more tolerant of different styles of personalities than in the crappy ultra-conformist suburb, where the mall was the center of all life and culture. Anyway, I was starting to enjoy myself. This new me was in a new place, getting new friends, and could it be, maybe his first girlfriend? Her name was Geraldine. She was a slender and gorgeous French teenager with a big smile and a sense of humor. She was kind of popular, and we watched the same comedy show every night on TV, which was how we started talking. She was laughing at my jokes. The same sense of humor that made me a weirdo just 25 kilometers away here was winning me the prettiest girl over here. We went on a semi-date one afternoon. A cool kid buddy of mine was there, and when he left, we kissed. We were together. I loved my new life. I loved almost all of it, except for a few things. One of them was the math teacher. He was a strict and intimidating mustache man. He was very severe. He had all those dumb rules about what kind of pen we should write with, and would tear up our notes if we didn't underline stuff with the right color he told us to. He also had a strict no bathroom break policy, which he made clear at the beginning of the year. The week following my kiss with Geraldine, I don't know what happened, but I was not feeling well. I have this mega urge to take a dump, and I was, you guessed it, in math class. It was getting really bad. I was too scared to ask Mr. Mustache for a bathroom break because I was sure he would snap at me. After what seemed like forever, it got so bad I was almost pooping myself in the back of the classroom. I was shaking, sweating, and my belly was killing me. I managed to grasp the courage to interrupt the teacher and ask for a bathroom break, insisting I wasn't feeling well. He begrudgingly accepted, so I started running to the door to exit the room. But my little sphincter couldn't hold it any longer, and it blew right in the middle of the class. My jeans were super stained. It stunk. It felt like gallons of poop were running down my leg and lots of it was on the floor. I heard the other kids gasp in horror. I remember clearly the voice of one girl going, "Oh no." I ran like hell to the bathroom, drops of poop marking my trajectory like little thumb. In the bathroom, I remember I was sitting there, pooping, thinking, this is not happening. This is not happening. And extremely anxious as to how I was going to come back to the classroom, what I was going to do with my ruined pants, etc. I washed my pants as I could in the sink and dried them with a hand dryer and put them back on. There was nowhere I could go, so I went back to the classroom. As I approached the classroom in the hallway, I could hear the teacher lecturing the other kids as to not make fun of me and be nice to me, because it wasn't my fault. Damn right, it was his. It didn't matter much. The shame was a lot. I remember one dude saying, "I would never have come back in the classroom. You have guts," or something like that. It didn't change the fact that now the entire school knew I was the guy who liquidly shat his pants in the classroom while running. Geraldine was avoiding me and broke up with me the same week. I was devastated. A friend who was popular investigated, and it turns out the pressure from her group of girlfriends was too hard to not go out with the guy who shat his pants. My teenage life went back to absolute horror, so to speak. Cool popular buddy stuck with me until the end of the year though, and he remained popular anyway. He was a good guy. I miss him, and sadly I've lost contact with him many years ago. Oh crap, I could say your new life in a new school just went down the toilet. Or down your pants. Story 8. When you read this story, it is obvious you will think that I am a dirty stop-out, so before you read this, I want to stress that I am not. My story starts in my local pub, the George. I live in a trendy London village, home to some of the greatest pubs in the world. They are traditional and lively, and always sell a gorgeous pint of ale. Anyway, I was in my usual position by the bar, happily drinking and smoking. I was in the pub to celebrate a friend's promotion. Always a friend, never mine. So as you can imagine, the beer was flowing freely. When I am drinking, I never pee until the 4th or 5th pint, as this will break the beer seal. And when that seal has been broken, I can't stop peeing. Necking down my 5th pint, I realized how much I needed the toilet. Off I go to the toilet, swaying slightly, opened the door and proceeded to get my one-eyed wiggling Welshman out of my trousers, ready to break the beer seal. Seconds later and nothing, not even a drop. All right, I said to myself, it must be nerves. So I think calm and happy thoughts. My girlfriend, Charlton Athletic winning the premiership, waterfalls, etc. But still, no pee. I started to look like George Michael standing by the urinals with my Johnson in my hand not peeing, so I left. Undeterred by this incident, I decided to fill my bladder up to a dangerous level, hoping to push the pee out. After pint number 7, my lower abdomen was in extreme pain, but still could not pee. Leaning against the bar, my brow was wet with sweat and had tears in my eyes because of the pain. Although this was embarrassing, I needed to speak to someone about it, so I rang up my mum. I don't know why, but I thought she would hold the key to my lock. After a few minutes of embarrassing explanation, she told me to go home and sit in a lukewarm bath. I limped home, luckily only a few streets away. As the pain was so freaking extreme, I was finding that walking was hard. Got home, ran the bath, and sat in it. Nope, not even a drop. For Christ's sake, I screamed at the top of my voice. All I wanted was to pee and I couldn't. I got out of the bath and collapsed straight away. The pain was so terrible I could not stand. Right, so my mother knew about my problem, very embarrassing. and my housemate knew, as I had to call out for his help whilst dragging my wet body out of the bathroom. He dressed me, embarrassment factor at an extreme high now, and had to call an ambulance. The ambulance rushed through the traffic with me in the back, moaning every time there was a sudden movement. I have experienced a lot of pain in my life. One example is I took a cricket ball in the nuts from a county fast bowler, but this was the worst pain ever. The ambulance arrived, I was rushed into a viewing room by wheelchair. I honestly could not move, where I was diagnosed as having a urinary tract infection. Basically, pus had built up in my urethra and it was blocking my flow of urine. Now you may ask yourself, but Dante, how do medical staff get pus out of a ween? Well, I will tell you, to just look up the procedure online. So up it went into no man's land. The pain was bad, very bad. Then the nurse pulled the trigger on the contraption. "Oh my good God!" I shouted in extreme agony. When the umbrella was out, I was in seventh heaven. I have never felt so received in my life. I opened my eyes and saw a stream of pee almost reaching the ceiling. I had around 8 pints of beer building up in my bladder and the pressure was extreme. When I had finally stopped peeing, I said thanks to the nurse and realized that I had peed over her slightly, over her top and tatas to be precise. I apologized and she said, "It's cool, that happens every time." That was my first and last golden shower. Story 9. I played the drums in an orchestra when I was 11. For one of our Christmas concerts, we had rehearsed this fake ending in one of the songs where we would do a big finish, making the audience applaud and then surprise them by playing the refrain again. Although at the concert as the fake ending drew nearer, I got what I thought was an amazing idea. I thought, why don't I make the thing even better by doing a drum roll during the fake ending? This was a spur-of-the-moment decision during the song, and I have no idea why I did it, more than that I was a spotlight-seeking naive little girl wanting everybody to look at only me. Well, I guess I got what I wanted. We did the fake finish, everything went quiet, and then, filled with adrenaline, I started making the drum roll. But the looks I got were not of amazement and awe as I'd thought, but of confusion from the audience, and pure rage from my 2 conductors and fellow orchestra members. I'll never forget the picture of the 2 middle-aged men furiously turning around to look at me with their eyes shooting lightning. I immediately stopped and felt ashamed like I've never felt before. I had destroyed the fun for a whole orchestra and their entire families simply because I was so eager to show off. We completed the concert, and afterwards, the conductors had calmed down enough to not yell at me or anything, but it was enough for me to never play in that orchestra again. And now, 13 years later, when I think back, I still get this enormous bowl of utter shame in my stomach and can simply not believe I was so incredibly vain and stupid. I know it shouldn't be a big deal anymore at all, but for some reason I still find myself thinking about that moment from time to time. And when I do, I always feel like crap. If you've made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sure you'd be interested in what's the most awkward thing you've witnessed at a high school reunion. You wouldn't believe story 2. I'll see you there.